Happy 2018 from Alchemist Camp, where we learn Elixir by building things. Today's Q&A is from James, who's essentially asked me to give up my secret plans and decision-making processes. That's okay in this case. He asked, why did you choose to teach Elixir on your channel? Wouldn't it have made more sense to go with JavaScript, which is much more popular and you have more experience with? Did you pick Elixir just because it's your favorite language, as you said, or because you thought that it was the best market opportunity? Well, James, I would say sort of, but not really, and definitely not. I do like Elixir a lot, and that is a major factor in why I decided to teach it. So I will draw a big heart here on Elixir, just to illustrate that point. I think the best market opportunity is actually probably blockchain. Blockchain is what my French buddy Julian is doing a channel on. It's called Eat the Blocks. I suspect he can do very well with that, even if only a small fraction of the people interested in blockchain sign up, just because it's growing so quickly and there's so much money being thrown at it. And it's also difficult. There's a barrier to entry. It has a lot of things going for it. Let me start off by going over my general strategy. My strategy is to go for a niche. I actually don't want a huge market like JavaScript. The reason for that is the big markets are big prizes to win, and big companies will throw lots of time and money at them to win them. And it's very difficult to even get noticed. Like if I'm teaching JavaScript, I'm probably not even going to be in the top 100 until I've put in a ton of work. It's a winner take most kind of deal. It's not completely impossible, but I think if I were to pick JavaScript, the only way I would do well would be by picking a niche within JavaScript, like only teaching VueJS, or better yet, just teaching Vue for Angular devs, which, as you can see, I've written in a box in the lower left of the screen. I think that would actually be a fairly viable option. In general, it's better if something is growing rather than shrinking, so I wouldn't teach Ruby on Rails. It's better if it's something that people learning it will be willing to spend money on, obviously. And I think that's kind of the big picture for the strategy of like what channel do I think will succeed. And on top of that, there are other concerns like, can I do it? Do I have that ability? And am I interested in it? And side effects I'll get to in a little bit. So VR is something I'm actually very interested in. I think it's great. I like video games. I like virtual worlds. So I'll give that one a heart. I'm interested in Rust also. I will give that a heart. Not super interested in Vue for Angular devs. I've got a tiny bit of interest in Go. It's not like really my style of language, but I think it'll be interesting to see how it does. I'm somewhat interested in .NET, so I'll give that a little heart. It's got Unity. It's got a lot of interesting stuff going on, and it's, from what I hear, it's kind of like a better Java, and it's one of the better options for making cross-platform apps, both desktop and mobile. So I'll give that one a little heart. Blockchain, I'm not really into it. Not from the tech side. I'm kind of interested in the scene. Like if you go to a blockchain meetup, there'll be like bankers, anarchists, hippies, and wide-eyed optimists. It's kind of like the internet used to be, like maybe in the 90s. I feel like when the web was pretty new, like you'd see those kinds of people. But it's not really my thing. My buddy Julian will do it. He'll do well. So as far as my ability to do these things, I'm not really there with VR. I love it. I would love to get into it, and I may at some point, but I don't have a super strong, say, video game programming background, and there are a lot of new things going on with VR. I don't even have a VR rig. I'm just not the right person to teach it. Similarly with blockchain, I wouldn't really be that qualified. .NET or Go or Rust, I could learn pretty quickly, I bet. I mean, I can learn anything, but learning just another programming language, I think, would be quicker to ramp up on. It's actually kind of an advantage, like an extra bonus to be learning a new language while you're teaching it. One of the bigger Elixir channels did exactly that. But it's not quite as easy as Elixir would be. Teaching Vue for Angular devs would be very easy for me, and there's actually some potential there. So in terms of potential, I've already said blockchain has by far the best market opportunity. I think Elixir has a decent one. It's a bit of a niche, so I'll give it a small lightning bolt. Rust is probably, of the languages here, is the biggest opportunity. VR is a big opportunity as well. Actually, VR is a bigger opportunity than Rust is. And Angular for Vue for Angular devs, that could do okay. Go has been around for a while. It's it's a bigger language than Elixir or Rust in terms of the community, and there are a lot of resources out there. The bonus would be if you did do it, then probably Google or someone in Google would be willing to retweet you and share your videos. Similarly with .NET, you'd get that same kind of boost from Microsoft. I think .NET is even harder than Go to stand out in, though, because it's even bigger. JavaScript would be almost hopeless. So that's about how I see this. And in terms of ability, Elixir is fine for me. I've been using it for over a year. So I love it, and I see a good opportunity, and I have the ability to do it pretty easily. Easier than anything except just plain JavaScript, actually, because I don't know Vue yet. It's the combination of these things that make it a good bonus for me. And the other thing that really tips the balance for me, Vue for Angular devs is teaching me a skill I mean, it's basically a different way of doing a skill I already have, since I know React and I used other front-end frameworks. It's not going to be a huge advantage to know Vue as opposed to knowing React. You can build the same stuff with it. Rust, on the other hand, would give me some new skills, but they're not the skills I want, because I'm interested in startups, which means you got to build things quickly. And there's no question whether if it's faster to build a web server in Elixir with Phoenix versus Rust and any framework written on top of Rust. So the performance, I'm sure, would be great with Rust, although the performance is also great with Phoenix for web stuff. So, I mean, what you'd really get from getting really good at Rust would be the ability to write infrastructure code, something that's used very heavily, something that's CPU intensive, something where you need to manage the memory yourself. People aren't really hiring for it at this point in the video game industry, but that would be a place where I could see Rust being an advantage once the library support's there. Dropbox, for example, recently rewrote a lot of things in Rust, and it led to a significant savings for them because they are dealing with who knows how many billions of files, and they really want the performance solution. The same would be true of a huge company like Google or Facebook. I don't know if they're using any Rust, but it would be rational if you have a huge, basically the same kind of stuff you'd use C++ for, you'd use Rust for. And if you're using C++ to launch a web app, you're a little bit crazy, in my opinion. Different people may have different opinions. So the side effect of me teaching Elixir and Phoenix and getting even better at it is if my channel never gets more than 100 subscribers, I will still have increased some skills that will be useful for me to ship any kind of side project or startup that I want to. So Phoenix and Elixir win based on being a good match for strategy, ability, my interests, and the side effects of teaching them. So there you have it, James. That is why I picked Elixir, and I don't mind that it's a relatively small community because that makes it way easier for me to dominate it. I've only been running the channel for less than a month, and the amount of screencast content that I have published is already, I believe, the number 2 most out of all of the places where you can find Elixir screencasts. And in terms of the amount of freely available content, it's probably number one, because most of the bigger sites put most of their stuff behind a paywall. They'll have a few teaser courses for free, and then most of their content you have to pay them X number of dollars to download or X number of dollars a month to access. So that's pretty cool, thinking about how quickly Alchemist Camp has gotten to this point, and on so little investment in terms of money or even time. But that would not have been possible if I were doing JavaScript. JavaScript would take 6 months working full time, and maybe even support from a team in order to get a channel to where it were the largest source of freely available screencasts in the language. So, as I've just made it clear, I'm not talking to a large group of you out there, but for those of you who are learning Elixir and Phoenix, Alchemist Camp can be your place. Happy 2018 again, and until next time, code on.